Welcome, everyone, to another erotic episode of It Crept from the 80s. Oh, my God. We are back, and this time we have a guest and a returning guest, no less. I can't remember the last time we talked live like this. Well, on the show like this. Josh of Oh, I Had That.
Oh, you did. Yeah, it's great to be back. Nice to connect again.
Yes. We've been talking off and on, um, online, and here we are again. And you came up with an idea for us to talk about, which is our summer movie memories and just summer, I guess, 80s, 90s summer memories in general.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Let's talk. It's getting warmer and warmer every day. I'm getting in that mood for summer, and just thinking about I just popped up hey, what if we discuss some movies that either we have fond memories of seeing for the first time in summer, or movies we just love to rewatch in the summertime. Either way.
And
or like you say, erotic.
Yes, quite erotic. Epically, motion picturally erotic. Yes. But yes, I here in Rochester, New York, in the upstate Western New York area, we are finally getting out of the garbage 6-month-long winter that we have up this way. And we are getting 70 degree days. It's smelling great. The flowers are coming out. The trees are coming out. The lawns are being mowed. And it's a perfect time to launch this this summer nostalgia extravaganza, if you will.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I'm in nothing but rain right now, so I'm ready for some sunshine. So if we can create it with this conversation, let's do it.
Yes. All right. Well, all right, Josh, since you are the guest of the show and you came up with the theme of the show, then why don't we get thick with one of your picks of movies, entertainment you love to watch during the summer months.
All right. I'm not going to pull up anything obscure for the first one. I'm going to hit you with I think it's pretty well known, but it might be one of maybe the lesser beloved by this main actor, but it's a film by Carl Reiner, and it is Summer Rental. I mean, come on, summer's in the name, but
in the title.
It honestly, I think it might be my favorite John Candy movie, which to some might be surprising. I mean, he's got so many great ones, but I just have so many fond memories of renting this over and over again, and until we taped it off the television. But yeah, it's just puts me in a summer mood. Just takes place at the beach. There's boating involved in it, and boat races and hijinks.
Yes, madcap mayhem.
So many. Bring on the summer hijinks. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of the key points, but it just starts off right away with the laughs. I mean, John Candy is not going to be slowing him, but you see he's just run down from his job. He needs a break. They need to take a vacation. Let's get a summer rental. But what do? They show up at the wrong house.
Well, of course.
I love how they're in this beautiful home, and it's just, of course, that can't be the right one. They got to end up in a construction zone. But yeah, there's a lot of, I don't know if you have any memories of it, but I think the first time I saw it actually was renting it on VHS and bringing it home, and my mom really loved it, so we watched it quite a bit over the years, and it's just had to be on my list of, in this case, summer movies that I love to rewatch in the summer. Like this one, I'll pop in randomly, and just can get sucked in again. I think I actually watched it not too long ago, maybe like 3 or 4 months back, and he's like, "This is my table and your wife." Like, I just love it. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Definitely a good pick. It's right in there with the summer school and One Crazy Summer and things like that that definitely put me in the mood. Even Sleepaway Camp, like gets me in the mood for summer hijinxery.
Any camp movie, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean Meatballs 2.
Oh yeah.
Meatballs 1 for sure, but Meatballs 2, you get an alien, you get boxing, you get Pee Wee Herman, you get all sorts of crazy stuff in Meatballs.
Even more balls, even more meaty balls.
That's right. Right.
You brought up One Crazy Summer, and it always makes me want to ask this of people: Are you Better Off Dead or a One Crazy Summer?
I like them both, but Better Off Dead for me is the better film.
Yes.
It's definitely Savage Steve Holland's masterpiece. But there's some things in One Crazy Summer that I do enjoy. Yeah. It's just not as solid as Better.
Yeah.
And I know he went through some shit making One Crazy Summer, and it kind of shows in the production. But I still enjoy it.
They're still fun. They're both fun, yeah. But I definitely like Better Off Dead more as well. But like, it pains me because they're such fun movies. But then all I hear is Cusack just does not like them at all.
Yeah, and the reason why One Crazy Summer was such a shitstorm for Savage Steve was because of Cusack and his chicanery during the making of that movie.
Was it that like he did not like Better Off Dead once it came out, and then
it had to do with like he made these deals with Savage Steve already, and so it was like an obligation that he had to do the second one, but he did not like how Better Off Dead turned out, and Cusack was fancied himself an actor on the rise, as opposed to a teen buffoon in teen buffoon movies and things like that. So, I do know that like now he has softened on that.
Well, that's good.
And he isn't quite as uptight as he was back then. But whatever. He did them, and I think he's great in them. But again,
yeah,
Better Off Dead is better, just the better film.
Anything where they end up on the ski slopes, I'm in.
Right, that's right. Yeah, so I took it a little more beyond what I thought the concept was going to be for this theme of the show.
Oh, bring it up.
And I wrote down all of the summer movies that I saw growing up in the 80s in theaters.
Wow.
And I have a really good nostalgia memory. So I remember, but it took me longer than it would have if I just picked out movies that I like to watch during the summer. So I definitely was like, man, did I? Yes, I remember seeing this in the theater, and I saw this, and I can remember who I saw the movie with and all of that stuff. And I did start with 1980 and ended in 97.
That's crazy.
And I didn't even really want to do like 96, 97 because we were getting to some territory that it's no secret who who are fans of this channel know that I'm not a big fan of the '90s. So we were getting into territory that I just didn't want to talk about.
I'd have to look back at actual like lists of the releases each year in order to pick out the ones that I saw then. Is that what you did, or you just remember? Do you just have that kind of memory where you're like,
I do have that memory, and I'm also one of those weirdos who like I can remember the year of when certain movies were released.
Yeah.
And so I have done this sort of thing throughout me living. So I'm pretty versed in what I've seen theatrically. And not just summer. And this seems like a lot of summer movies. And I kept like being like, no, that didn't come out in the summer, and I'd take it off the list and things like that. Or it came out in March and, oh, this should have been a summer movie. And so my criteria was from May to the end of August, from the beginning of May to the end of August, which is the summer movie season.
Wow. You did a lot of homework. I should have better clarified my idea. But
it's just the type.
Because I don't even know if what I've selected, half of them might actually have been released in the summer, but not all of them.
So, I'll just cruise through some things, and like on the topic of certain films, I know we will have, the similar interests in films, and they happen to be summer movies. They happen to be summer blockbusters. So, but so for 1980, my memory starts in 81. My memory starts when I'm 4 years old. I don't remember really anything before I was 4 years old. But I remember a lot from 4 on. So I'm only going off of what my family has always told me throughout the years as far as this particular film. So 1980, the year of Empire Strikes Back. I'm only 3 years old at that time. I don't remember a single thing of me being in that theater with my family, other than them saying, "Oh yeah, we took all you kids to Empire Strikes Back." I'm like, okay, great, cool, wonderful. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
But 1981, the summer movie I do remember because I'm sure you've heard me talk about this, but I also am very much in love with Jim Henson and anything he had to do with. So Sesame Street, The Muppets, Fraggle Rock, any of that stuff, I was like, I love it. And so the summer of 1981, our family went to see The Great Muppet Caper. And to this day, it's my favorite Muppet movie.
Oh, awesome.
Just because I love the craziness of the spy adventure of it, the James Bondian of it, all the and then of course, because it was my memory of seeing a Muppet movie, in the theaters. But so The Great Muppet Caper, and that is one movie that I watch every few years. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the summer that I watch it, but I do watch it. And it brings back great memories.
So is that one, I don't know if you specified, but is that your first memory of like being in the theater then?
I think so, because I can remember it vividly.
Yeah.
It's funny, like so I lived with my great grandparents and my great aunt.
Yeah.
And so my great aunt was into science fiction and fantasy and stuff like that. But sometimes when my aunt wouldn't take me to theaters, or couldn't, I think she was like still in college or whatever, my great grandmother would take me to a specific movie, and she always hated it. Always. It was always like a burden to her because she hated the movies that she had to sit through.
And now, is she the one that was like done after the Dark Crystal?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So she did take me to see The Great Muppet. But I remember that, and I can always remember her moods at these theatrical screens.
How do you not have fun in a Muppet movie, lady?
I know, my grandma loved, the Golden Girls and Matlock and stuff like that, and
Murder, She Wrote?
Yes, definitely, 100%. But yeah, so I'm sure there's other crap that I saw that year. Another thing, my family was very movie oriented.
Yeah.
If it wasn't my aunt taking me to all those science fiction fantasy movies, it was my mom and my uncles who were young. And so that's how I saw a lot of comedies and horror movies that I shouldn't have seen.
Yeah, I have that in common as well. Like, my dad was like, every weekend, let's go to the movie. Like, so I had a buddy for the movies my whole adolescence, which was great.
Yeah, that's great. And so then 1982, there were two summer movies that I saw in 1982. The Secret of NIMH, and the big one is E.T.
Mm.
Now, the big one, E.T. is a much beloved, amazing, science fiction fantasy kids movie, Spielberg film, big summer blockbuster. And not only do I remember seeing E.T. with family, I remember everybody crying because we all always went as a big group. So we would take up at least a row, and so I remember everybody crying in the row. But E.T. was big, it was much like Star Wars. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
And so E.T. was very big. So I was having the cereal. I had the tray. I would eat my cereal in front of cartoons and with my ET tray and my ET cereal and all that stuff. So ET was a big deal, and ET is another one of those movies where I'll watch it anytime, every few years.
Yeah, that is one that I have, because I was born in '82, so I fell in love with that later after it, had its big release and run that year. But like at this point now, I have so much ET collectible stuff, and I like to watch ET around Halloween time.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it is one you can watch whenever. Yeah.
Yeah, I just do, just because I love the film. Just think it's a great, and I also love
great.
Turn people's attitudes towards it.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of even my cousin Casey, who's 4 years younger than me, but he hated E.T. growing up. And it was like that with a lot of my friends who are a little younger or also in my age group. I would be like, well, you got to watch it again. You got to watch it with your adult eyes.
Yeah.
Because they would either say, oh, it scared the hell out of me, or, it was just, I didn't understand it. It was so weird and blah, blah, blah. And then I'd show them again and they'd be like, oh my God, that's an amazing movie. So.
Yeah, because even, especially you say with your adult eyes, I think it does help it is a movie where if you watch it like in your 30s or, even in a life point, if you've had a kid, if you're a parent, to rewatch it again at that point too, it's just like a new set of eyes seeing it. Like, I loved it as a kid, and then I had a period where, like, I don't know, I'm a punk teenager or whatever, where I was like, oh, E.T.'s boring, and wasn't interested. But then rewatching it later, like in my 20s and stuff, I grew to appreciate it again. And even so much as, oh, it's Spielberg, the story, like the feel of it, but like the shots in that movie like are just incredible. If you go back and watch it for that point as well, it's like the scenes where Elliot's like first kind of like hearing ET out back, and like the lighting on those shots, and oh man, chef's kiss. But then that of course is where we get so many things after that inspired by that film, you know? Yeah, that's a great one. So for you to have that memory, that's so awesome. I'm so jealous of that. Like my memory of it is like at home, you know, it probably was on cable, but later on VHS. But yeah, that's a great. I was a baby. I don't even know if my parents would have. I saw it in the theater that year. Probably not, because you know they have one kid, my older sister, and me, who's an infant. So probably would have been hard for them to get away to go to it. But great pick.
Do you want to do another one of your?
Sure. I mean, should we stay in the Spielberg arena for a moment and go back a little further and put in one that I have to watch every summer, which is Jaws? I mean, I now have a pool at my home, which is not like an inflatable pool, and I want to play this like some night. Just put up the screen out back and put Jaws on and float in the pool. And I just think that'll be a great summer memory for my son.
That's you know, that is on a lot of people's lists for summer movies, you know, to watch is Jaws for sure. Interesting. I don't know if you know this about me, but I do not like Jaws.
Get out of here.
I never have.
Come on, man. So I'd be interested to know like more perspective on like what about it you don't like, because it is. I know it's kind of crazy. It's like this giant shark. Is it even, can it hold your attention? But like, just the feel of it, how intense it is with the score, and it just grabs me. Being a horror fan, and that feeling of like being on the edge of your seat, this one just doesn't do it for you, huh?
No. I remember, you know, I saw it sometime in the 80s, and I remember just kind of being like, that's it. You know, like that was it. That's the big movie that you all want me to see and think is amazing. And you know,
what do you think would have made it appeal to you more? Have you ever thought of like, oh, if they would have done this?
I think so. Here's my thing. I have an issue with animals run amok. I don't find them terrifying. I don't find them threatening. My thing is like stay out of the water, and or like with Cujo, it's like kick the dog, you know, or just shoot it. Like I just don't care. Like,
man.
Now if Jaws, if that shark were like kaiju sized, then I'd be like, okay, we got something here. Like this is a mutated like creature of the unknown. But it's just a shark in the water, you know.
So like maybe more like a Sharknado?
No, I hate that. I think that's stupid as well. I think that's very stupid. But
yeah, I can see that. Like if it's more threatening, like, oh, it has legs, it's land bound now.
That and if the shark like sprouted like huge legs and
now now it sounds like an Aquabats episode.
Oh, whew, that's right up my alley. But yeah, so it just never, you know.
Oh man, I did not know that about you. But I mean, yeah, it's not surprising. It's not a movie that I think everybody immediately should love, but yeah, I always had it gave me exactly what it should do. Those just stressful, intense feelings while you're watching it. The music had a lot to do with that, of course, which is why that's always getting accolades, but it's definitely one that I like to watch in the summer. I mean, so
listen, you know, almost everybody I know loves that movie. There's obviously a reason for it, you know. It just never. I For me, I find more appealing is Jaws for the Revenge,
Ooh.
just because it's so cheesy and it's a terrible B movie, and that like I can like sit back and laugh at and enjoy Mario Van Peebles doing a Jamaican accent and
Oh, okay.
all of that silly stuff. Like I can really like get behind. Even the goofiness of Jaws 3D
Oh,
is
that's the SeaWorld one, right?
yeah, which is terrible.
Yeah.
But it gives you some laughs and
But you got Leah Thompson in that, looking
yeah, and Dennis Quaid, you know. But yeah, so I don't know. Jaws just never did it for me. But it is 100% a huge summer film
I
for
like that.
for most of the world.
I like the way you put it. Animals run amok. So no Dunstan checks in for you.
Like Grizzly or any of that stuff. And
Cocaine Bear. Did you see that movie?
What?
Did you see Cocaine Bear?
No, I didn't see it. I heard too many like it was good for like 10 minutes and then it sucked. So
Oh.
I didn't bother going to see it. But so okay, so Jaws, you love Jaws. Jaws, everybody loves Jaws except me. The interestingly enough, the only summer movie I saw in 1983 was Return of the Jedi, and that was enough for me because that whole probably entire year in my brain was nothing but Star Wars.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I mean, my God, that movie it's my favorite Star Wars movie. I have so many memories tied to that film, to that original trilogy. Uh, it was huge, and I've talked about it before, but I remember the theatrical experience. I remember jumping on the seat during the speeder bike scene and just losing my mind. At that point in my little 6-year-old brain, I had never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
And I saw already. I saw the Dark Crystal,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously I saw before Return of the Jedi. I saw Star Wars and I saw Empire Strikes Back just watching on either VHS or whatever it was, cable or whatever. But for some reason, Return of the Jedi, like, I mean, it like really changed who I was for sure.
So that's like the perfect age to see that movie. I mean, everything involved with it, the things that get the most crap, like the Ewoks, that was made for you at
I
6.
love it all. Oh my God,
Yeah.
There's nothing that I don't love about that film.
And I think my dad was a huge sci-fi guy, so he loved Star Wars. I know that because I was already getting the toys at 2 and 3, which like I haven't seen the movies to remember or appreciate them yet, at that young, but I know I was getting the toys in 83, 84, 85. So like Jedi, I had most of the Jedi toys because that's probably when he first started kind of getting them for me. Um, and then I don't recall like seeing those movies until later in the 80s, like that I can remember them better because like I would have been 1 at that point. So but I mean even that, so then I'm probably like 6, 5, 6, and I'm really enjoying them like you did, so it's like the perfect age for you to see it. And even as an adult, I watch it again and I'm like, why does so many people give the Ewoks crap? This movie's great.
I just recently watched it again. And I don't watch the special editions. I hate the special editions.
Yeah.
I actually, when the special editions came back out in '97, I walked out of Return of the Jedi.
Oh man.
And that's my favorite movie. But after what they did during the Jabba scene, they put the weird like Jedi rocks, like the weird band in there, and the singing and the that new edition and everything, I walked right out. I was like, I cannot do this. Like,
Is that when he also had him like walking with Han Solo by the ship?
that
Like,
was in Star Wars where
Yeah,
he
okay.
added Jabba.
Yeah.
So
But,
'97.
those special editions that year, that was one of the things he changed, right? Though they had all those new CGI edits and whatnot that were just like, oh, come on.
Yeah, so during the Jabba scene, he adds this whole musical number
I
with
remember
a
that.
bunch of CG characters.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, nope, I'm out. You know, I was just like, this is deplorable.
I can argue both sides of the fence where it's like he's a filmmaker who like couldn't do things that maybe he wanted to do back then because of the limitations, but at the same rate, it was a classic as you released it. People loved it, so like, just why even take
just
the time?
Because you can doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. Exactly.
But so I have these, you know, there's the despecialized versions of them.
Oh yeah.
But this other group, the last 3 years, it's called Star Wars 4K.
Uh-huh.
And it's this group who sort of they did the despecialized edition one better.
Oh wow.
And so they somehow made it as close to what it was theatrically, while, you know, pumping up the detail and the quality and everything, but still leaving the grain and all of that stuff how it should be. And so that's how I watched them. And so we just recently watched Return of the Jedi again. And I was just like transfixed. I was just like, oh my God, I love this movie. Like, this movie is so freaking good. And
I need to get a hold of those on a disc, like those despecialized ones that.
Oh, well, I'll, you know, I can.
Because they still have yet to like release those, right? They don't.
Yeah. Well, so what? So Lucas, when he signed over the Lucasfilm rights to Disney, in the clause, he said you cannot release the original versions as long as he's alive.
What a dick!
I know.
Like, why? Why? What?
Because he thinks what he did to them later is
better. No.
You know, and he kept messing with them. He messed with them when they came out on Blu-ray, and that's when he added Hayden Christensen at the end of Return of the Jedi. And
which totally takes away our Anakin Jedi toy that we got, right? Like, no longer is that valid because they took him out of the movie.
In this brain, it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
I don't count all that other stuff.
Is that Return of the Jedi, that anniversary one that they played at theaters? Was that then
that's the special edition?
Yeah. That's not even an anniversary then.
No.
That's sad. Yeah, because back to the originals, just what a great movie. So I can see that being as like you said, that took up your whole year. I mean, for me, it would be later in the 80s. There's a couple. 89, you know what movie took over my year?
Again, that's another movie that took over the world, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Return of the Jedi was everything to me. And then so 1984, the summer movies that I saw were The Last Starfighter, The Muppet Takes Manhattan, which I didn't like.
Yeah. I don't like that one either.
The only thing I liked about that movie were the Muppet Babies, and that's where they were introduced in that film. And then the cartoon came out, and I loved the cartoon. But the movie itself, The Muppet Takes Manhattan, I do not like. I love The Last Starfighter.
Have you been able to check out the Electric Mayhem show yet?
Yeah. Not yet. I will though. But much like Return of the Jedi in '83, the big movie for me in '84 was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and that's another movie that I like flipped for going to the theater, and I dressed up. I've talked about this before as well. And if my aunt would just relinquish all the damn photos she
Oh.
has. There is a photo of us going to the theater, and I am in full indie get up, and she put like uh, stubble makeup on me and everything, and
That's awesome.
I have my own whip and sack and everything.
But you haven't gone and copied all these old photos yet?
She always gives me the excuse that like, oh, it's too hard to go through all those photos and find those books and everything. I'm like, I will come down and I will do it myself.
Yeah, you don't want those lost. Just show up at her door and get into them, because
she always gives me an excuse.
I made a point to, retrieve any old photos like that I may want to have a reference, at least take photos of them or photocopy them, if not get the original. So I'd love to see the little Chris in indie.
Oh, I mean, there's so many pictures I know that we have that are just like being caged.
Oh.
One of these days I'll get them.
Yeah, because growing up, we had a camcorder, we had a camera, and we had books and books and books of photos. And then, by the time my mom actually passed in 2020, and going through them, I was like, where are all these books that I remember we had? There's so little compared to what I know we had. So it's like they're easily can be lost, and it's like, you got to get those, Chris.
I mean, I hate to say it, but when she passes, I will be. I am going to ransack that place and take all of the photos I can.
Is there any? Did any of your family have a camcorder in the 80s? Like,
so, in 1984, this was this year. 1984 was the big year for me as far as wanting to be a filmmaker. This was the year. My mom had took me to see Nightmare on Elm Street, and that sort of like was like, okay, I want to make movies. And then so that Christmas, our family got a video camera. Now it was a family's video camera, but I absconded with it, and I'm the one who did most of the video stuff in the family. And so I started just making backyard movies with neighborhood kids. And, I talk about this in the documentary that's coming out, but it was this year, 1984, that it all really started. And I never looked back. Like,
that's great. So you were what, 7?
I was 7.
In Nightmare on Elm Street in the theater. Like, oh my, that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's really,
even at that age, you already no scare factor for you. You just loved it.
So I have talked about this before, and I will say that I was scared, but it was so exciting. Like, I didn't care how scary it was. I still wanted to see it because I was so sort of intrigued by it all. And what was cool was with my mom and my uncles, they would constantly tell me like, "Oh, these are people who make this stuff to make it look like this," and they would go out of their way to try to explain that, this isn't real. This is just part of movie making, and blah 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 blah. And so through just discovery and me wanting to find more about movie making, or going to the library and getting like movie making books or special effects books and things like that, that's when I would sort of glom onto that. So I certainly was afraid. I mean, I would have terrifying Freddy dreams, thinking that Freddy was in my bedroom. Like, I can remember specifically one night after watching Nightmare on Elm Street 3, I woke up in my bed and there was a mirror and a like a dresser, clothes dresser with the mirror on top of it that was across the room but in front of my bed. So anytime I got up out of the bed, I could see myself in the mirror. So I had a nightmare, but I swore I saw it. I swore I was awake. So I wake up and I'm like, and I look up at the mirror and Freddy's like waving at me in the mirror. And I'm like, but it didn't matter because the next day I was just like, man, that was awesome. That movie was so good, and blah blah blah. Like Freddy is awesome, and I would make I would take winter gloves and put butter knives in the I would tape them to the fingers, and I would make like backyard Freddy and Jason movies with my neighborhood friends. So
that's later in the 80s for me, as like around that age, like being born in 82. So later in the 80s for me, it was like I loved to play Jason. Like I got one of those hockey masks. I'm running around, but Freddy, I didn't fuck with Freddy. Like, but I like in the 90s when I'm like a little older and I start to absorb them for what they are. Like now, Nightmare on Elm Street's my favorite horror franchise. Like Freddy's my guy, but he in my childhood, he's like a figure of like terror. Like, oh, there's just clips of those movies that I remember seeing them on TV or whatever and just being like, fuck this. Like, yeah. So I'm right there with you having the nightmares, and man, you were like a little dream warrior. I swear I saw.
Yeah. And it was my grandparents who were always like, he can't watch these movies. Stop showing him this stuff, but
7.
I know, but everyone did, that was I guess the, downside was my mom and, that side of the family, they were so young. My mom was really young when she had me. So like the downside was I had to be raised by, my great grandparents and my great aunt. But my mom was like a teenager and like in her 20s, and so she was like, yeah man, I'm gonna show you all this weird stuff. And like
upside is, hey Chrissy, let's go see Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, so it was my uncles and my mom and all that stuff, and it's the horror and the music and the comedy, that's where I got all of that stuff from, guys. And a lot of the science fiction and fantasy was from my great aunt. So but yeah. What's another movie, Josh?
Another one. No, I was going to ask you before we moved on. Do you remember what the first thing you made is, like as a filmmaker, as a kid, like the first thing you taped was?
Yeah, I mean they were Freddy movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were. If it wasn't a Freddy movie, then it was a Jason movie. We also we always did these like dumb. I was around a lot of my cousins and the neighborhood kids. I saw my cousins a lot. And I had a bunch of first cousins. There was a lot of us in the family, and they were and if I didn't go to their houses during the weekend, then they would come to mine. And then I had all the neighborhood friends as well. And so if we weren't making our own Jason and Freddy movies, we were doing sequels to movies that we loved. So we would play The Dark Crystal 2, and we would be characters from whatever we came up with for The Dark Crystal 2. I remember we would do our own, after Little Shop of Horrors came out in 86, we were like, let's do Little Shop of Horrors Part 2. And we would do that shit. So we would just come up with our own dumb stuff and just shoot it. But for the most part, it really was like our own, like Freddy and Jason, just dumb shit.
Making horror.
Yeah,
Things that you thought of, or
yeah, a lot of like ketchup as blood and dumb crap like that. And instead of we couldn't say bitch, and Freddy said bitch a lot, so we would always say wench. We called everybody a wench.
Oh, it's perfect though. All right, another movie, huh? So I have one that it's not necessarily. I don't think there's anything summer related to the film or when it was released. It possibly could have been released in summer. I feel like I knew the date, but now I'm blanking. But it's Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. It's just one that for some reason I like to watch in summer. The kids are, I think, going to school in the movie, so it's not necessarily a summertime film, but something about it just for me is like it's a good movie to watch in the summer. But this was definitely one that we rented a lot and then eventually had our own copy of. I think it's in recent, like, I think over the last, like, I don't know, 10 years, I hear about it more.
There's definitely a cult following around.
Yeah.
For sure. You know, even at conventions.
But I don't know. It's not necessarily, you probably wouldn't think it's like, it's not one of the greatest movies, but I think it's good. It's enjoyable. I love the cast, and it's just a fun movie. But I don't
Dishes
know.
are done, man.
Is that one that you can recall? Do you see that in theaters? I mean, that's what, 91, right?
I saw that probably on like HBO or Cinemax or something like that.
Or was it 90 or 91? I don't think it was 80.
No, it wasn't 80. I want to say it was 91, 92, something like that.
Yeah.
Probably 91, but I didn't bother going to see that.
But yeah,
I like Keith Coogan. A lot.
Yeah, I love the Coogan. I actually got to meet him a handful of years ago, pre-pandemic, I think, and then had him on my podcast, and we had a good talk.
I remember that. Yeah.
But yeah, Christina Applegate in her prime. That's like her coming. She's in Married with Children, and they're kind of trying to make her a movie star at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, great movie. But that's, for some reason, I like to watch it in the summer, so it was one that, like, I pulled here. You thinking about all the summer movies that you actually saw, and me thinking about what movies do I like to watch in the summer. But yeah. I like the juxtaposition we got going here. You have the straight facts and memories here that are making me think back. Like, I have a period of my life where it's like, I know I saw those in the theater because I was also working at a theater. So it's like my high school years, like that 4 years is like, yeah, I saw this in the theater. I saw this in the theater. But then before that, like early, like 89 to like 94, it's just like distinct movies, like big movies. Because I did see a lot of movies with my family, but not all of them like stick out. Like,
yeah.
See it on a list, I'll be like, okay, yeah, we did see that in the theater, but they're not like you where you have a pretty photographic memory about it. But there's certain ones, like I remember the seat I was in, I remember like what I was eating. Yeah, like the one of those is Jurassic Park. Like,
oh yeah, it's on my list.
Definitely. I'll wait for you to get to it then, but yeah, that's one of those that for sure I have the memories to go along with it. But
yeah, I'm gonna start cruising because I have a lot, and I was like,
maybe just even pick some out. We don't have to hit every year, but if you want to, because there's one in every year that you think is worth hitting. But yeah, even if you want to cruise along and just hit the highlights, like whatever you want to do.
This is interesting, and I've talked to my family about this before, as far as what the hell. Right. So why didn't we go to see this or whatever? But 1985, I don't remember a single movie that we went to see in the theater.
But there were so many. It's like,
I know, it drives me up a wall. You
had to have gone to a handful. I doubt you didn't go to the movies all year.
But I remember so much. But it's like, why the hell didn't our family go see Back to the Future?
Like,
it boggles my mind.
There's no way you didn't.
And I'm pretty good about remembering this stuff, and some of my family members are pretty good about remembering this stuff. But like 1985, I'm thinking of all the stuff, and I'm like, wow, I don't remember seeing this. I don't remember seeing this, until VHS or HBO, and it drives me crazy because there's so many great movies that came out in 85. I'm like, why didn't we go see? But in 84, it's the same way. Like, we didn't go see Ghostbusters and we didn't go see Gremlins. And maybe members of my family did, but they didn't freaking take me to Like,
It's so crazy that they took you to Nightmare on Elm Street, but
I know.
yeah. But Back to the Future, so nobody in your family recalls you going to see that, or
No.
even them. Oh wow.
No, like the first time I remember seeing Back to the Future was probably the end of '85 or in 1986, and we got like my grandfather finally bought
Mm-hmm.
a VCR instead of renting them,
Yeah.
and the first movie that he bought with the VCR was Back to the Future.
Yeah,
So,
I have an early memory of us having a copy of it too. So mine was definitely after the theater.
but holy shit, like, seeing that at home, I could only imagine my brain in the movie theater seeing that movie. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm always like mad at my family who are like taking that from me. Like, like
I don't know. Maybe it's just buried. Maybe you did see it, but
maybe I want to go to therapy and be put under and take me back to the summer of 1985 and suddenly have this memory of Back to the Future.
Because it's crazy to look at a list of 85 and see all the movies that came out that year.
And there's so many heavy hitters.
Yeah.
And so many movies that today I find to be like, masterpieces like Back to the Future.
But Back to the Future is one that, like, I mean, part of it is, we fell in love with it on video, on cable, but like when I was in my teens, I think like high school, there was like a midnight showing, so I finally saw it on the big screen. And even then, even knowing the movie, it was like, wow, I'm seeing this in the theater. This is amazing. So I was like, it didn't take anything away that I already knew that thing beat for beat. It was still, it's one of those movies that just, in the theater is just anytime it's great.
Yep.
Have you seen it in a theater since? Like,
oh yeah,
yes,
thankfully. But man, to have that, the amount of movies that we saw and not seeing Back to the Future just boggles my mind.
Or Gremlins. That even
Gremlins or Goonies, like I fucking loved Goonies, but why didn't we go see it? Why didn't you take the kids to see the Goonies? Like it just upsets me. Is
that great grandma? She put the kibosh on all the fun.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh man.
So 86. The summer movies that I saw were Flight of the Navigator, Labyrinth, and Transformers the movie. And out of those three, I would say the big one for me was Labyrinth, just because I was such a Muppet head. So again, anything Jim Henson, I fucking lost my mind for. Not that I didn't like Flight of the Navigator, and not that I didn't like Transformers the movie. I remember the theatrical experience of Transformers the movie because for some reason they let a kid's party happen during the screening. And so there's, I'm 9 years old, so there's probably like kids my age, and there's younger kids with balloons in the theater screaming, just acting a fool. And when Optimus Prime dies, like half the theater is like crying and whining and everything, and I'm just like, man, like this. I didn't cry. I thought the movie was great because I don't know. It was a cartoon. I was like, whatever. I still have my toys. I'm still gonna watch the cartoon, whatever. But I just remember being upset that these kids were like ruining my experience to see the Transformers movie.
You're a cinephile, man. Little Seavage goes to the box office and goes, "I want a refund."
It was just bizarre. It was like, why did you do this? I remember the parents being so pissed.
That's weird.
It was weird. But
just talk about, because you mentioned Flight of the Navigator. You also mentioned The Last Starfighter. Can we just talk about the love of space during the 80s? Like,
oh yeah, man.
We were all on board with freaking space. Like, Space Camp, Explorers.
Oh my God, Explorers.
Navigator. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love Explorers, and it
Me
doesn't
too.
get enough love. Just that, even that early poster with the shot of the like bike and the skateboard, like on the fence.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
all of it. I was like, I was one of those kids looking up at the stars, and
Yeah,
you
man.
know,
And that's one thing I want my son to like feel, that like sense of wonder, like that's was such a big part of our childhood, is just what could be, what is out there, what's bigger than us. Like the world lives in such a different way now that it's just like, I kind of showing him these films and stuff, I hope helps to kind of inspire that, get his imagination going, because I just feel the pace of our world with technology and the news cycle and everything that hits us, the way we live our life is just so different that it's like we gotta slow down and just think about.
I know, and we tried to do that with my kid, but it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
The modern age is here,
and your kid's older now, but did he have that time where he left after breakfast and like you didn't see him till dinner like we did? Like I just remember like being gone, like especially in summer. We're talking about summer, like we'd come back with the streetlights popping on, and now it's like I don't even see kids riding bikes anymore.
Nah, he didn't. It's just so different, and we tried to make that for him. We tried to give him that. Certainly, I did. I tried to give him all of that, but it just was so. It's just a different time.
Yeah, the world is just different too, and the things we need to have frigging worry about that our parents didn't.
Yeah. So it's a lot different. The one thing that I am happy about is, at least as far as pop culture is concerned, River is very well versed in the 80s.
Nice, yeah.
And so I think when he hits like 20, 25, something like that, he's going to have that nostalgia feeling again where like, oh man, like, I grew up watching Ghostbusters and things like that. And
yeah, that's great.
That's going to be cool for him to come back to, because it was all the stuff that I pushed on him when he was little.
Yeah. That's why I just smile whenever my son says something like, I really love that you're an 80s collector. I'm like, why? Who are you? It's like, this is from the 1980s, right? Just about random things. So yeah, hopefully he has like kind of a nostalgia about these old films too, and helps keep them alive. That's why we're here.
I think he will. Right now, he's just too cool for school, and he's Mr. Skateboarder, and I'm a teenager, and
have you showed him Gleaming the Cube?
No, I showed him Thrashing.
Oh yeah, Thrashing too.
I
Yeah,
love Thrashing way more.
No, Thrashing is a better movie,
and he thinks it's ridiculous, and it is ridiculous.
Look at those giant boards.
But again, I think when he's in his 20s, he's gonna do everything. The one thing that he did do, which is really cool, is at a certain age, he had to start putting his toys away, and things like that. But what he did do was don't you throw those away. He's like, put those in a tub.
Yeah.
And when I'm older, I can like bring them back out and display them and stuff like that.
That's cool.
And he's 16, and he did keep some of his stuff out. So he has a shelf full of his Transformers still, and he has a shelf full of his Star Wars still. But there's so much that he was like, no, you put this away until I'm older, and then I'll bring it back out because I know I'm going to want it. I might just not want it now in front of all my friends. Yeah.
Can't have this out with the girls around,
which is ridiculous. I never was like that. I was always me through and through, and if you didn't like it, then we weren't going to be friends. You know what I mean? Like
I definitely lost the toys out on display. Like those went away at a certain point because I was like, I got I got really into punk rock and
You can still do it all. That's what I
yeah.
did. I just did it all. I was like, whatever, man. Instead of playing with toys, now I'm just gonna display them or hang them up on my wall, and I can still be me and be 18, 19, whatever. And I didn't care. Um, so, but yeah. So I'm just gonna cruise through these real quick now.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna, honestly, I'm gonna cruise through these, uh, just so we have them out of the way, and we can go back and talk about them if you want to. Again, these are just movies that I saw theatrically in the summer of these years. So 1987, I saw Ernest Goes to Camp, Harry and the Hendersons, Spaceballs, Adventures in Babysitting, Inner Space, Masters of the Universe, which destroyed me. Can't buy me love, and the Monster Squad. And the Monster Squad, there was 5 of us in the theater.
God.
1988, I saw Friday the 13th Part 7, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Short Circuit 2, License to Drive, Big Top Pee-wee, which I loathed, Caddyshack 2, which I loathed, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which became my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film, and Young Guns. 1989, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Ghostbusters 2, Batman, of course, which we will talk about, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, UHF, Friday the 13th Part 8, which was a miserable birthday experience for me. It came out on my birthday, and it's a terrible fucking movie. And I remember we came out of that theater like absolutely pissed. Young Einstein, which I was dragged to by a girlfriend, and then Nightmare on Elm Street 5. 1990, summer movies were Back to the Future 3, which I did not like. Total Recall, which I loved. Gremlins 2, I loved. RoboCop 2, I loved. Die Hard 2, I loved. Arachnophobia, I hated. Young Guns 2, I loved. Darkman 2, I loved. I mean, Darkman. 1991, Hudson Hawk, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, The Rocketeer, because of Jennifer Connelly, Naked Gun 2.5, T2, which blew my mind, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which was great, Hot Shots, Child's Play 3. 1992, summer movies, Lethal Weapon 3, Alien 3, Encino Man, Batman Returns, which was my favorite movie of the year, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Death Becomes Her, Stay Tuned, which was a lot of fun, and Pet Sematary 2.
Ooh.
1993, saw Hot Shots 2, Super Mario Brothers, which was the one and only time I decided to make out with a girl because I hated the movie so much. Normally, if I was being, accosted by a girl that I was with at a theater who wanted to make out, I was always like, no, we're watching the movie. This can wait. But Mario Brothers stunk so much. I was like, okay, let's go make out. Jurassic Park, which was a mind-blowing experience for me. Last Action Hero, Weekend at Bernie's 2, Hocus Pocus, Coneheads, Robin Hood Men in Tights, and Jason Goes to Hell, which was another amazing theatrical experience. 1994 summer movies, not a lot. The Crow, Beverly Hills Cop 3, which sucked, Speed, Wolf, The Shadow, which sucked, True Lies, which was my favorite movie, summer movie, The Mask, which was probably right up there next to it, Airheads, and then The Next Karate Kid. In 1995, summer movies were Die Hard 3, Tales from the Hood, Johnny Mnemonic, Congo, Batman Forever, Judge Dredd, Clueless, and I walked out of Clueless after the Mighty Mighty Bosstones played, because I only went to see the movie because the Bosstones were in it.
Come on.
I hate Clueless, but I paid to see the Bosstones in the film, and I left. Species, Waterworld, which I almost walked out of because I hated, Mortal Kombat, which was a really fun theatrical experience, Desperado, and Lord of Illusions. 1996, The Craft, Twister, Mission Impossible, Dragonheart, The Rock, which is amazing, The Phantom, which I hated, Eraser was fun. Independence Day was the best movie for me, other than From Dusk Till Dawn that year, hands down. The Frighteners, Escape from L.A., which I hated, Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood, The Island of Dr. Moreau, and Crow 2, which sucked. And then I stopped at 1997, Austin Powers, Fifth Element, The Lost World, Con Air, Batman and Robin, which I've never seen since because I thought it was so deplorable. Face Off, Men in Black, Spawn, which also was deplorable, Event Horizon, which I loved, and Mimic. Those were my summer theatrical experiences.
That was a good chunk of movies each year that you made it to in the theater. Even the ones that I'm like, wow, you went and saw that, huh?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, going back, I mean, Roger Rabbit, come on, just great. And you mentioned Young Guns. Did you enjoy Young Guns?
I did. Like I wasn't a big Western person.
Yeah.
So my uncle Greg was the one who would take me to some of the movies that I knew I wasn't gonna. So like he would take me to like Rocky V and shit like that, and I'm like, man, I don't want to see this fucking movie. Like, but it was like, let's go to the movies. But Young Guns, I was like, hey man, I love everybody in this. Like,
oh dude,
this is fun. And so the Young Guns movies became like really big for me. I even did a Young Guns 3 in my backyard, like after Young Guns 2 came out. We did.
Dude, I love both of those movies.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So good.
They're finally coming out on 4K. They're
coming
out on 4K disc.
Wow.
Grab those.
Yeah, that was like the height of Emilio, like being a movie star is like right in there. Like, I mean, he had his 80s run, but he was like, he's like the hey Emilio, like at that point, Young Guns, man, that was like a shining moment for him. Like he really got to. I just love the character in Young Guns. He's just like this outlaw that you just want to root for,
Really the kid, man.
But yeah, and then you mentioned you had me at Jennifer Connelly. I was
for the Rocketeer. I Jennifer Connelly was like my big crush.
Career opportunities.
Oh my god, career opportunities. Are you kidding me? Like,
whew. I never wanted to go to Target so much in my life.
Oh yeah. So
yeah, she's great in that one. But yeah, Rocketeer was this weird movie that like Pizza Hut had a tie-in. Like I have the personal pan pizza box from like Rocketeer.
Disney pushed it, Disney was really pushing it, but I really, geez, I'm 14 at the time. I'm like, I'm going for Jennifer Connelly. I don't care about, it was a fine movie, but
yeah,
man, she's something else.
But Bogus Journey, was that?
Well, the Bill and Ted movies were, so I saw Excellent Adventure twice in the same weekend when Excellent Adventure came out. One with my mom, and two, so it was weird. Our social studies and our science were the same class.
Oh.
It was very bizarre. And so our teacher, as a field trip, took us to see Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure for both science and social studies because of the subject matter.
Oh, that's cool.
So Friday, I got to see it with the class, and then Saturday, me and my mom went to see it. But so Bogus Journey and Excellent Adventure were like a big. Bill and Ted is like.
Yeah, and I don't even think I knew until the last couple of years about how it got shelved, the first one.
Yeah.
It was sitting for a while. Yeah, I didn't know that until recently.
Yeah, man. They made that in 87 and it came out in 89.
Yeah, that's crazy. Such a great movie. I love Alex Winter is like an unsung hero of mine that just like I love what he has done throughout his career. And every documentary I see, like I'm like, God, I love this one. A couple of them I didn't even know he did until I watched it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, Alex Winter, that makes sense. But yeah, like I want I have like a download of it, but I want was it Freaked?
Yeah, Freak.
Such a good movie, and like
yeah.
I can't get it anywhere.
It was, I remember, so I was following the making of that film because so he did a TV show called The Idiot Box, and it was on MTV, and I taped it. Anytime it was on, I taped it. It was ridiculous. It was so absurd. And right after The Idiot Box, I was flipping through a Gore Zone issue, and they were talking about Hideous Mutant Freaks, which was the original title of the movie. And I saw that it's Alex Winter and all this shit, and I'm like, what is this? What is this comedy horror thing? what are they talking about? And so through the pages of Fangoria or Gore Zone, I found out more about the film, and then they started showing pictures of the behind the scenes of the makeup effects and all the artists that were a part of it. And I was like, oh my God, when this movie comes out, I have to freaking see it. And so they shelved it. It never came out theatrically, and it went straight to video. And so I went down to Video Connection, and I was like, there's this movie that's going to be coming out, and it's called Hideous Mutant Freaks, and it has Alex Winter from Bill and Ted, blah, 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 blah. I was like, whenever this movie comes out, you have to tell me. And so I remember, and I was really good friends with the people by this time at Video Connection, because they would reserve shit for me all the time. I was definitely the horror kid. Yeah. And I shot stuff inside when I was a kid. They would let me shoot like stuff inside and everything.
Do you still have footage in the video store?
Oh, I do. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's in the documentary as well. But
you need to like super cut some YouTube content of like that old footage, man. That's awesome.
And so they got a hold of me when it was finally like heading to VHS, and they're like, yeah, it's called Freaked. They changed the name to Freaked. Do you want me to put you down for a reservation? I was like, hell yeah. And so I was the first one who reserved Freaked when it hit VHS, and I loved it. I mean, it's
awesome.
The movie is fantastic.
Yeah, I think I saw it on like cable. Like I was like, what is this? But I loved it immediately, and it's like it only went to VHS, right? Has there been a DVD of it ever?
Yeah, there was a DVD. It was a 2-disc set. I had it for a while. So Anchor Bay put it out. And then it went like out of print, you know?
Yeah.
And so for the longest time I had the DVD, and they were going to make a collector's edition Blu-ray of it. And something happened. I can't remember why it got shelved. I can't remember why, but there's bootlegs of the DVD that are out there. I would expect one of these days, one of those boutique Blu-ray labels will pick it up, and we'll see it all cleaned up and nice.
Yeah, that'd be great. Such a fun one. But back to your list.
So I would expect, I would assume you want to talk about 1989 because that was a huge year for summer theatrical releases. Let's not even mention Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and of course Ghostbusters 2, which was huge. But Batman obviously was like the biggest thing,
That year was Batman. I was like coming out of like the 80s playing with my superpowers toys, rolling around my superpowers Batmobile. Like I was all in for Batman in DC when that movie was coming to us in 89. And I watch it as an adult and I'm like, this is not a movie geared towards kids other than the fact that it's a superhero. Like it's not like a kid movie, but we just lapped it up, man. Like Batman was it. And like even like as an adult, I don't. This might be like controversial to say, but I don't like Jack Nicholson as Joker, like as an adult, but as a kid, like I was just like, oh, this is the Joker. I lost my freaking mind, man. Like it was just too perfect, and I can watch that. That's one that, yeah, it was a summer movie, and like that, I didn't pull it to mention it, but I'll watch that whenever. I'll just pop in Batman, like for no particular reason.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But yeah, that distinctly was. I remember seeing that in the theater, and Ghostbusters 2, like that. I think Ghostbusters 2 was more so my way into Ghostbusters, the cartoon, and then that, because the first one I had seen like later in the 80s. Like we watched it on TV. It was on TV. We rented it, but I think I was more about the real Ghostbusters, just the age I was.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters 2 was more like that feel, more fun. Like it was less like, I think Ghostbusters is more an adult comedy. Like it's not necessarily geared towards kids, and that wasn't their intention. But the franchise just grew into that, like something that kids can love. But so yeah, those two movies, like I have fond memories of those, but Batman was that entire year, man.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, Indiana Jones, Ghostbusters 2, and Batman were like the biggies.
Yeah, I honestly wasn't an Indiana Jones fan like as a kid. Like I remember watching them like in like 92 or 93, like seeing them finally. So it wasn't really a part of like my early childhood at all. And I think it's just more so because they are just like more of an adventure, like more just a blockbuster geared towards, grown-ups more so than like families. I don't think it.
I don't know. I was hooked.
But they're definitely good. Like there's parts though that I don't even know if like I would say like, oh, I would show this to like a young kid. Like there's parts in it that are like, ooh. But yeah, they're still like they're definitely family friendly for the most part. But
they worked for me.
I saw those re-release toys that you recently had in a video. I definitely want that Indy. I'm like, I already looked him up. I'm like, oh, you can get him on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's crazy how expensive those Kenner, like the original Kenner are.
Forget about it.
But yeah, for you, Indy, Ghostbusters, Batman, yeah, that 89 was everything Batman. And then I don't know what you said. What was your birthday experience for the Friday? Was it the 8th part that you?
Yeah, part 8. Yeah, I mean, because it was all hyped up. Jason Takes Manhattan. Jason was going to be in New York. Even the trailers made it seem like, man, this is going to be amazing.
Dude, the trailer is the great part of that movie.
And then, we're friggin' bunch of 12-year-old. I was just turning 12. It opened on my birthday. That was my birthday like party. Like we just were like, we're going to see part 8, bro. Like this is gonna blow us away, And no, we were. I just, just at that point coming out, it ruined my day. But I mean, as a 12-year-old, forget about it. We went back and we watched the others and forgot all about part 8. It was just like
they had to have a vehicle to get Jason to Manhattan. So the whole boat thing is like that was their way in, but like that whole part of the movie until he gets to an actual city is like, what am I watching right now?
Well, I hated I really hated all the weird like kid Jason stuff.
Yeah.
Him turning back into a kid at the end. His look with the mask off.
Yeah.
He just looked like a googly-eyed pumpkin. Like it just I don't know. I remember we were just laughing at it and I don't know. I was a big Jason fan. So for me, it really bummed me out. And I've had like experiences like that. Like I said, like in '87, walking out of Masters of the Universe, I was just like,
Oh man.
I was like, what the? This is not He-Man. This was not my He-Man.
Oh,
You know,
God.
like,
I like the fact that you had to see that in the theater depresses me because I didn't see it until it was out on video, and I was a He-Man kid like at a young age, like '84. I was already in with He-Man toys, and then the cartoon, and then that movie. When I saw that, I was like, "What am I? What is this?" But like, I have like a original poster of that movie that a friend of mine found at like a estate sale or something, and just the fact that it was like one of the originals, and I'm a big He-Man guy, I had to have it. But
well, see, as I got older,
yeah,
I ended up appreciating the movie a lot, and so
yeah,
I proudly own it on Blu-ray.
yeah, I have it on VHS. Actually,
Um,
I watched it last year actually, and like I don't hate it as much as I did as a kid.
no, it's
But
a fun.
it's
It's like
still-
a dumb, fun '80s science fiction fantasy movie. You know.
But you know what is like the flip of the coin is the cartoon does not hold up for me.
No, it doesn't, and I own it, but it does not.
I really loved the new cartoon though, the Revelations.
Me too.
Yeah, I love that. But yeah, the movie I think was something that we had to just grow into. It wasn't the cartoon that we loved. It's so the pace of the cartoon is so weird. And like I try and like even my son, like he loves He-Man, but the old ones just he doesn't like him either. He loves She-Ra.
Mhm.
And he loves the new cartoons, like even the more anime one that I think they canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird how that happens. Like some of those older cartoons, they're paced so weird now as an adult to try to watch them.
Well, you know, you gotta remember that they were made to sell toys to kids.
Yeah. Just commercials.
And so there wasn't a lot to them.
Yeah.
It really depended on who was writing, you know, who was the showrunner of each cartoon, because like the Real Ghostbusters is a fucking amazing cartoon.
So good.
Still to this day. And if you look at the talent behind it, you know, there's a reason why that cartoon was so good.
Yeah, and you can just you can watch an episode of that and the script itself and the amount of thought that's put into the story versus a episode of He-Man.
Yeah, you know, well, it was all who depended on who was making it, because
Yeah.
there were adults writing this stuff, and they tried to get a little more in there than just the typical children fare type shit, you know?
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about some of the cartoons. Like Masters of the Universe is always going to be extremely huge in my life, and it always was growing up, and it always will be. So I'm not gonna. I can shit all over the cartoon, but still appreciate what it is and what the franchise did for me, and you know, and I still own it. I found when it was on, I found that She-Ra, the original She-Ra, started to get better written than He-Man. And so I started gravitating towards the She-Ra cartoon and the Horde. And the Horde were far more appealing to me.
Oh yeah. I was a Horde guy. I was a Horde kid.
Skeletor and his bumbling band of boobs. So and not that I didn't laugh at all that stuff and find that stuff funny. But Hordak and the Horde were like, to me, they were badass villains, and still Hordak, to this day, they're my favorite villains. You know,
Hordak was my guy for sure, and I had to break my son's heart yesterday because he finally finished like the anime, the new one that had like a third or second season where it ends with Hordak like coming back, and he's like telling me about it, and I was like, yeah, buddy, I think they canceled that, and he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean they cancel it? It's Hordak. Like, so I had to like break his heart. I haven't watched all of them. He has. I have not. I did not like Revelations, I just liked the style of it, so I was like, yeah, I'm watching this. I absorbed that one, but I haven't tried that new one. But yeah, he's a big Hordak kid already. So yeah, that movie is definitely one that I grew to appreciate as well. But to jump ahead a little bit, like, let's go back to Jurassic Park, man, because I think there's a lot of meat and potatoes there. Like that, like I was saying, like I remember the theater that we went to see it.
Me too.
Standing in line to buy the ticket and where we sat, like finding our seats. Like I could still, in my head, I have the perspective of where I was sitting and like the moments of that movie on the screen.
Yeah.
And especially the end with the T-Rex and the banner, like the end feeling that hit me, and like just my jaw dropped and looking over at my dad and just like, yeah, that movie, it changed everything pretty much, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
it was another turning point for sure. Definitely for me, I remember it. I'm 16.
yeah.
Again, it was one of those things where the experience and the movie itself like changed sort of who you were as a person and the cinema that you liked and all this stuff. And Jurassic Park was one of those like, holy shit. And that was the movie of 93. I mean, Jurassic Park was 89's Batman. That was just like,
Oh yeah.
like, wow moment. That was 77 Star Wars that Jurassic Park killed. And the one thing I'll never forget is our screening of this movie. The audience was so in tune with each other. So the first time you see the Brachiosaurus, the whole audience gasped. Like it was like the air went out of the room because we had never seen anything like that before.
Yeah. That's like right after he taps her and then she stands up to look and it hands over
and like show it.
Drop your popcorn, man.
Our whole audience, like it was just one giant gasp, like, and we were all just a part of it. We just could not believe what we were seeing, and it seems so silly now.
Yeah.
But I mean, these were dinosaurs that we were seeing,
like this looks like legit, like reality that we're looking at as opposed to like Jason and the Argonauts or whatever that we've it was just a next level thing. And I mean, it's not like it was new to see effects like in movies. Like, I mean, even like how cool Roger Rabbit was to see cartoon mixed with live action, but we hadn't seen like a dinosaur look like that. I mean, the whole, like, I've watched stuff since about like the punk rockers in the cave that actually made those dinosaurs, like the computer whizzes and what they did. And it was changed. Like they had to pretty much invent that tech to like make it happen. And
yeah, it's awesome.
Man, so good. So was that one that, you said did you see that like with specific family or like at the same theater that you always went to?
No, so it was interesting. Like we, I would say probably up until about 87, everything that I saw was in our hometown, was in Wellsville, and we had like one little theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I had two screens, a downstairs and an upstairs. And then in 87, so Wellsville is such a tiny little spot. It's like nestled in between Buffalo and Rochester. And it takes 2 hours to get to Rochester, and it takes 2 hours to get to Buffalo, either way. But there's these other like burgeoning little towns or cities, if you will, that are closer to Wellsville. And one of them was Olean, and that's where my cousin Casey grew up. And so there was a multiplex, a multi, was like, whoa, this is what more than two theaters, um, and it was part of a mall. And so, in '87, I see that's where I saw the Monster Squad, because the Monster Squad wasn't playing anywhere else. I mean, that movie tanked.
Yeah.
That movie did nothing. The movie
Yeah.
was gone in a week. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, there was like 5 people in the freaking theater when I went to see that
Which
movie.
is still like, it still blows my mind because of how it impacted so many of us as kids.
Oh,
And the fact that it didn't do anything, and then it's just one of those movies that everybody found later. Because I didn't see it in the theater, but
so after the Monster Squad, it just depended. Now it was sort of like, who am I going to be with that we go to this theater or this theater, or and then there was a mall. I've talked about this before, but about an hour and a half away from us, there was the Arnott Mall in Ithaca, New York, and they had a multiplex in their mall, and I saw a lot of the horror movies that I loved in this mall because they were the only theater playing it. And then specifically, there was one theater, and I don't know if they were bought out by Trimark or something like that, but one theater within the multiplex that would always play like movies that you would think would go direct to video, and they'd play there for a week or two. So in this theater, I saw Leprechaun and Leprechaun 2, Children of the Corn 2. I saw Warlock 2. I saw like all these fucking crazy horror movies that were in this specific theater.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it was just it was a variety. It was like, okay, sometimes it was in Wellsville, and it was either with my mom or my uncles or my aunt, or it was with friends and their parents, or it ended up being, as I got older, I started going to the movies alone when I was like 10. So then that would just be with like pals, which is, we would get dropped off when we'd go to the theater and stuff like that. And so I saw a lot of movies with my buddies too, and then, something that I did want to talk about, as far as summer is concerned, but we had a drive-in as well, and we had a drive-in that was like, I would say 15 minutes outside of the main town, but it was it was owned by the theater in Wellsville.
Mm-hmm.
So the theater itself was called the Babcock, and then the drive-in was the Babcock 2. And they would have 2 screens at the drive-in as well. And so I saw a lot of movies with my friends, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 at the drive-in as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, where I'm at now, we have like 5 drive-ins like within a good distance of us, like really like not that under either 20 to 40 minutes. So
that's awesome.
Like we have a choice. So we've been to several drive-ins, and then my small town here has old school like 4-screen, like still standard seating, not stadium. So it's like trapped in the 80s, which I love.
Yeah, that's what I love about Wellsville in general. That's why I go back and shoot a lot of my movies there, is because Wellsville hasn't really jumped out of the 80s that much. And the theater, now they did update the theater to digital and its surround and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But they didn't really like change much else. Like, so the seating is still the same. Yep. It was not stadium. The upstairs theater, there was slight stadium feel to it, but it really was almost like a couple of bleachers, like with some theater seats. I don't know. It was very odd, but it's still like they would let me shoot some of my movies, scenes in the theater as well. And that's why I keep going back, is because like the look of it is still so ancient and vintage, and But so yeah, unfortunately, they tore down the drive-in in the '90s, which sucked. Mid '90s. But
yeah, they've had kind of a resurgence, so it'd be nice if it still existed out there for you. But yeah, like we love going to the drive-in. We just saw the Mario Brothers movie at the drive-in, which was great. But I'm with you. I grew up in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, so the suburb that I was in, we had a small 4 screen that was in like a strip mall. And then there was a little bit later, I think, a general cinema that was outside the mall, which only had like 6 or 8 screens. But we always ended up like a little bit further out. Like we'd drive to a theater that had more than that. It was more like a multiplex, like 10 screens. So we saw most of them there. And it wasn't until I was in high school in '97 that my specific suburb got a big 16 screen movie theater, which is I applied right away when it was going to open. So I ended up working there through high school. So yeah, that's why I say like a lot of my movie memories like of like knowing right away, oh, I saw all that I saw all these movies in the theater was when I worked there through the end of the '90s. I started the weekend of Titanic opening. But yeah, like even growing up, like much like Wellsville, there was several different options at a certain point. So just depended. But with my family, for the most part, we went to that one multi-screen theater that was kind of more out in the boonies from us away, like kind of a drive to the country. But yeah, like we had a drive-in as well, but I don't have a lot of drive-in memories as a kid. Like I think maybe I was at a couple of movies at the drive-in. But I love it now as an adult. So I love going with the family to the drive-in now. It'd be great to like just be able to like curate a weekend at a drive-in. That would be so fun.
Yeah, there's out here. Well, it's about 5 hours away, but I've gone to it several times. But there's a place called the Mahoning Drive-In.
Oh yeah,
and it's it's all they do is play old '80s and '90s on film.
Yeah,
a lot of it, most of it horror.
They have like a big VHS get together too, which I'd love to make it
VHS Fest.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I watched the documentary about that.
Oh yeah,
a couple years ago.
So yeah, I've been to a few of those, and they are wonderful. It's such a good time,
And like you mentioned, even about the Wellsville, how they had to update the I think pretty much if you want to show new movies, you have to be digital. They don't send prints out really for anything new anymore.
But
I love that about working at a movie theater in my teen years is it was still prints, and my buddy was a manager, when I was just a like crew member or employee. And at a certain point, like I was able to like go up in the booth and like help him splice in trailers or like get to watch the print to make sure it's all good before it releases that weekend. So fun memories, which is kind of like gone for working at a theater now. Like you're rarely going to see a print of a movie unless it's like a place like the Mahoney or something that probably still has a, old school projector.
Yeah, they have two old school projectors, and then they do have a digital.
Yeah,
and that's for when they run stuff like stuff on VHS, things like that for the VHS Fest, because that's what they do. They play a big old VHS on the big outdoor screen, which is hilarious. But yeah, I worked at a movie theater from 2006 to right before the pandemic. I worked at AMC, and I was also there from the print stage to when they push the print out, and now then I was just pushing a button,
Yeah,
it's all digital.
Yeah, I remember because I used to get like sometimes there'd be the trailers would just come in a little spool, and there'd be trailers that we didn't end up using or whatever, and it's like a movie that maybe I enjoyed, so like, and I somehow ended up with a trailer.
Yeah, I got a bunch of those.
Taking the posters like right as they come out. Oh man.
Yeah.
But I skipped over to talk to you about Jurassic Park, but like another one that kind of absorbed, which is weird watching it now, like because it's like this like 40s noir, really colorful movie is 1990s Dick Tracy, but that kind of took over that whole year.
So I didn't like it. Yeah, I didn't. I was not a Dick Tracy fan at all. Yeah.
I don't know, something like they somehow hooked up with McDonald's and like geared that towards kids as well. And like I was all on board for that. I mean, coming out of that Batman trance of 89, like just to get something new, like, but then I rewatched the movie and I was like, I really liked this as a kid. I don't know.
Yeah, I was not a fan from the get-go. I was like, I want nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
I think my 1990, my year, I was probably my big summer movie was Total Recall. Like I went apeshit for Total Recall. I loved it. But I think the movie of the year for me that year was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah, I guess
it wasn't a summer movie. It wasn't a summer movie, but
Dick Tracy was part of the year. But I mean, I was all in Turtles at that point too, because coming out of like '88 with the cartoon and the toys, like I was all in the first couple of waves of Turtles toys. So that movie was huge for me as well. But then it was even bigger once it hit VHS. Like
I remember opening weekend, and I went Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I remember dragging my Uncle Ross to see it Saturday and Sunday, because I was just like, but I mean I was going alone. I just was like,
yeah,
I know you're gonna appreciate this, because I was not only was I enthralled that it was a Turtles movie, but I was like, the Jim Henson Company did the Turtles, and this is the best animatronics. Again, I was like such a nerd for that stuff. So I was like, you gotta see these animatronics, man. They're so good. Like,
yeah, those first two Turtles movies were, especially on video, just for us, we'd rewatch them over and over again. Yeah, it's so good. I just I don't understand why they can't just keep the Turtles looking like that for movies. Like every Turtles movie after 3, I'm not on board. I can't do it. And now this new one, I know it's like a hip animation, but I'm just even the trailer, I was like, why? Just give me another live action Turtles. Like, I don't know. It might be the debacle that was Turtles 3 that really has set it back. Yeah, I think I saw that first Turtles in the theater a couple of times. I saw Dick Tracy the one time. But you mentioned Last Action Hero, man. Last Action Hero. I was all on board with that one. And that one, didn't it kind of bomb?
It did.
Yeah.
It did, but not in my heart.
Yeah, I love that movie. And I could still watch it. I have a couple of the toys actually on a shelf.
Yeah, that was another fun experience, because it was at this point I was already a few years into low budget pictures. I started low budget pictures in '91, and I already sort of established my group. So from '91 on, any time we would go to the movies, it was always this big ass group of idiots. And that night when we went to see Last Action Hero was a riot, and I'll never forget it, because like coming home out of the movie, we were just laughing at the movie and like quoting it and half making fun of it, but also being like, man, that was actually really good. It was fun that they sort of poked fun at it and everything. And I don't know, it was a good movie. I still think it's great.
Yeah, and especially for someone who loves movies in general, like that movie and the character of was Danny, right? Like his love of going to the movies And then even the play where the play on it when they're in the movie and they go to the Blockbuster, like
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Great.
I don't know. I was shocked that it tanked.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, it came out the same summer as Jurassic Park, so anything was sort of going to get left in its wake, you know.
Yeah. What are you going to do there? But yeah, I'll show you another one that I pulled out.
Yeah.
It's not, you might have been too old when it hit, but I still watch it every summer. It's The Sandlot.
Yeah, I didn't have any interest in it.
But yeah, I mean, I was a kid playing Little League and playing baseball in the back lot, growing up with my buddies. So, like, I was the perfect age for that one to hit. And I introduced it to my son, and he absolutely loves it. It's just a fun movie for, kids of that, like an age of, like, I'd say 6, 7 to like 12. It's like the perfect movie for that age group of kid, and it's definitely a summertime movie, like them playing baseball, going to the community pool when it's too hot to be able to play baseball. Like, it's still fun for me. It brings back a lot of good memories, so it's definitely one that I watch every summer. And it brings into a point like of summer in general in our childhoods. Do you have any memories of like what you would do when it's just absolutely blazing on a summer day? And usually you'd want to be running around, but it's like so hot you don't even want to do that. Would you get out the sprinkler? Did you have a slip and slide?
Oh yeah. Yep. There was definitely, I did write that down. I think most of us kids who were growing up in that time had like slip and slides and sprinklers and all.
Yeah.
Any manner of weird, whatever sprinkler toy that would like come out, like the wacky thing that was like going all around once you hooked it up to a hose and stuff like that. Like, I think we all had that. But yeah, we definitely did that. At a certain point, we ended up getting a pool, so we also enjoyed that. But we also had the creek. We had the creek, and so we would go down to the creek, and us gross ass kids would be running around in the creek, like getting dirty and messy. And
somebody tied a rope to a tree.
But it was just, yeah. I mean, that's definitely a memory. Like that's something that, kids of today just they're never gonna really experience. It just depends on their parents and how they're like raising them, but it's just not, we 70s 80s kids, even to an extent 90s kids, it was just different, man. It just was different, and it was better and it was more fun, and we experienced a lot more, and I don't know, and we got hurt and it was okay, and we still got up and we had fun, and we were outdoor kids, and I don't know. I
just think it relates to like you have to make like a conscious effort to like make sure kids are unplugging and just like going out and experiencing life, Like we lived at the time where we saw like Atari and Nintendo like come into our lives and like give us video games, but even in the height of Nintendo and in Super Nintendo, I don't think it ever like took us away from like, let's go outside and freaking run around, man.
It definitely didn't me. Like, and I had those, I grew up with them. I started with Atari and all that stuff, and we had them, but I would play maybe an hour, 2 hours a day, and it was like, nope, let's go outside, let's go.
It might also have to do with the immersiveness of the video games now versus then. Like they're way more advanced and suck you in. Like even as an adult, like pre having a child, like when I got I think it might have been PS3 at that point, PS2, PS3 maybe. Playing like Assassin's Creed and Uncharted, like I'm an adult and I'm getting sucked in, and it's been like hours that I've been sitting here playing this versus like Mario or even Zelda or something like that. Like after about an hour, I was good, and I'm like, I'm going to go outside.
Definitely.
But I think it's just about making that effort. Like Yeah, we got a pool recently too, so I want him to enjoy that. But I also have like a big slip and slide, like with an inflatable shark on one end that you slide down. And
Yeah, that's fun, man.
yeah, it's like
Fun.
summertime, man. Get the popsicles out, fire up, slip and slide.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, um, I loved summer even extra because my birthday always fell in the summertime, and so like it was always extra special. I always got to have like presents and friends around and parties and stuff like that, and so
That's great.
and I could theme the day and everything, and it was always like, you know outside. There was stuff to do outside, so the parties would be outside, or we'd go to the theater and then do something after that. We I don't know, whatever. So that was the added bonus for me. I did a lot of sleepovers. I really loved sleepovers, and I still do as an adult. Hence the Saturday morning sleepover. But if I could, and if there were people who would just do it, I have sleepovers all the fucking time. Like, I just love being around with my friends, and I don't want to go to sleep, regardless if my body is saying go to sleep. I just want to have fun and keep watching movies and eat and just talk and laugh and just do dumb stuff. So like sleepovers were a huge part of summers for me.
Yeah.
And and I think I do this thing called Gash Bash every year. If I'm not making a movie that particular summer, then what I do is I still invite all of my friends from around the country to get together for 5 days, and they all stay at my house, and all we do is grill, watch movies, laugh, swim. Like, that's it. Like, that's all we do. Yeah. And we've been doing it for over 10 years, and it's just a blast. So it's just another way for me to connect with that childhood love of sleepovers and summertime and all that stuff. So
yeah, that sounds like such fun. Like fighting it to stay awake all night. Don't want to be that first one to pass out.
And that's tough now, man.
Yeah.
I'm about to be 46, and right now I'd already be in bed. So
yeah, I have those nights though. Like, I've been finding, like, ever since I guess in 2017, I started doing I Had That on Instagram, and kind of reconnecting with a lot of memories and nostalgia and recollecting things. And ever since doing that, like, and getting kind of like sucked into that time period again of my life and looking back and enjoying the community that of other nostalgia people out there, like collecting and reminiscing. Like, I find myself, I'll just, even solo, I'll be like, oh my God, it's 3 a.m. I've been watching this old content for for 4 hours. I need to go to bed. But yeah, like doing it with other people, man. I have to get up to one of your Saturday morning sleepovers. That would be a blast, man. Like,
anytime. It would be a great weekend. Believe me, it would be a lot of fun. It would be nostalgia overload for sure.
Yeah, I love having them from you and watching them. I got about halfway into that new one. Unfortunately, I couldn't keep going for 8 hours, but but yeah, I just watched the episode of Elf having the bet with the parents to like be good so he can live in the house.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, man, I don't know if you have more that you want to talk about. I mean, I pulled out other ones, but like, I can just fire through these, and if anything comes to mind. But like, yeah. I love The Great Outdoors. I have to watch that summertime. For some reason, The Burbs is a summer movie for me. I don't know, that movie. I just love this movie, and I don't know. Like, I think it's probably one that also got bigger on like VHS or had a cult following. But for me, it's just fun, and it's such a weird movie.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
The sidekick, Rick Dukeman or however you say his last name, like, for me, he owns this movie. Like, I love that guy in this movie. He's also in that movie Blank Check, which was a good 90s one. Disney movie. But one that you might connect with, Whitewater Summer, man. Whitewater
Oh my God.
Summer.
I mean, it's amazing. I love that movie.
But yeah, I like this is a great one just to pop in randomly too during the summertime. And like I don't have any memories of it as like when it would have come out like in the 80s, but I found it like probably in the 90s and have loved it since. But yeah, you got Kevin Bacon and Sean Astin like out in the wilderness, like being taught life lessons.
I love it. I love that movie. I was gifted a theatrical poster recently for that film. Yeah, my buddy Bobby Heckman, he gifted it to me because he knows how much I love the movie. But yeah, I've loved it since the 80s. I showed my wife a few years ago. She was like, "I've seen this movie." I'm like, "What? You've seen this movie?" She's like, "Yeah, I remember this movie." But I think it's great. Kevin Bacon is such a dick in that movie. So
he is, right? He's a dick. I just love the interludes with Sean Astin when he's like the cool guy. Like he's like kind of like a Parker Lewis.
Yeah, because they shot the movie earlier and it didn't come out until he was like in his teens, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess there is a juxtaposition of what he like looks like in the footage versus like the.
Yeah, he's like 3 years older when he's like talking, when he's doing the, talking about the film. He's like a teenager.
Did you catch that one like as a rental then, or did you see it?
That played a lot on HBO.
Okay.
And so that's how I saw it, and then I started renting it. Once we got a second VCR, I was duping tapes left and right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the video stores like started seeing you less and less after you copied them all. I
definitely was.
But yeah, I was a big tape it off TV guy.
Oh, me too. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have a bunch of VHS that has like TV shows from back then.
I wish I still had all mine with the commercials and everything. Oh my God, that would be great. I recently saw on Marketplace, like, I don't know, this might have been last year, so not too recently, but somebody was selling like 4 of the VHS drawers, which I was always looking for. At the time, I only had a couple. So I went and got them, and one of them was full of like each tape had like 3 movies taped off TV.
Oh, nice.
It's like 20 to 30 different tapes full of movies.
Yeah, that's great.
All like a good like mid 80s to like early 90s, which was great.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I love just I could just watch commercial after commercial.
Oh yeah.
Movies. Like just a whole I got a DVD that Dave's Archives from YouTube put together, and it's like segmented in chunks of years of commercials, and I'll just throw that on in the background. It's so great. But yeah, man, that's really all I pulled out. I think the only other one I had over here was Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which that can be any time of year. That's not just summer. But like you said, you hated Big Top Pee-wee. Who liked Big Top Pee-wee?
I don't know. In fact, I don't know anybody in my friend group who likes Big Top Pee-wee. I
didn't know how Pee-wee liked making Big Top Pee-wee. Like, what was he thinking?
I don't know. I have no idea.
The recent Pee-wee stuff that he did, like what was the one called? The Netflix thing that he did, was it Pee-wee's Holiday?
Yeah, I liked that.
Yeah, it was all right.
That. I liked his stage show.
Oh, the stage show was phenomenal. Like I even love watching the old HBO one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like
I definitely did.
Pee-wee's Playhouse was such a big part of my childhood as well. Like I had all the I had all the toys as a kid, but I didn't have the Playhouse. And as an adult, one of my wife's childhood friends like found her Playhouse like at her mom's, and it had a bunch of the toys loose inside of it, and she just gifted it to me. And I was like, oh my God, amazing. So like I have the Playhouse up, and I bought a few of them on card too, just to like have, and
yeah,
it's just great to like look back at those. But yeah, that Pee-wee's Big Adventure though, man, that juxtaposed with like the Playhouse is such a night and day, because it's like Tim Burton versus Saturday Morning kind of.
I know, but they're great. All of it.
Yeah.
All of that is great. But that movie is phenomenal. I've talked about this before as well. So I had friends down the street from me, the Sarahs. And it was like the parents were divorced, so it was just the dad. And the dad had all the kids, and there were a lot of kids. But Nick and Jennifer were the people that I cared about. Nick was one of my best friends, and Jennifer, I had like a on and off again sort of kid relationship with until high school,
With your sister?
So, but they were also a movie house.
Oh, yeah.
So this family would also, as soon as a movie would come out on VHS, they would get it. So if I didn't see a movie in the theater, you bet your ass I was watching it at the Sarah's house as soon as it hit me, because they would have movie nights.
Oh, nice.
Every weekend. And so all the neighborhood kids would go to the Sarah's, and we'd all watch movies. And so that's where I first saw Pee-wee's Big Adventure, when it hit VHS for the first time.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it was awesome. Like, that's where I saw a lot of the police academies. So up until like Police Academy 3, I saw on VHS, and then I started going to see them in theaters at Police Academy 4.
Citizens on Patrol?
Hell yeah, man. It's my favorite Police Academy movie. But so yeah, the Sarahs, I remember seeing Short Circuit. I remember seeing Porky's 2 there. I remember seeing like Return of the Living Dead and Return of the Living Dead 2 and all. It was a blast going down there, man.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, man, I think we hit a lot of key summer movie moments.
Yeah.
And even just summer memories, man. Summertime was just such a blast during those years. Like for me, it was the late 80s, early 90s, like being out of school for that 3-month block and being able just to run amok with your friends, leave after breakfast, come home just in time for dinner. Like, yeah, I have a lot of fond memories, like I said, for a good chunk of my childhood, I lived in like a town home community. So there were like a bunch of kids my age, like right next door. And there was like a back lot where we turned it into a sand lot. Basically, we go out there and play baseball. Like we used to, because it was like you're playing near your house, we used to play with tennis balls, which was fun. And you'd feel like a god because you'd hit it so far.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you knocked those things out of there, man. Like,
but yeah, it was just like that, and riding to the corner store, playing Nintendo, just playing outside, random games, skateboarding, like just so many great memories of that particular season. Like I've always been more of a fall, like Halloween kid, but like summer, summer's just, you have to have fun during the summer. But for some reason, I was not about it. Like, if anyone was like, "What's your favorite season?" I'd definitely be like fall. Mm-hmm. Definitely Halloween, scary movies, pumpkins. But I love that we're talking about these memories in summertime, because it's getting hotter and I'm gearing up for it. I need to go hit the drive-in, hit some summer movies. Yeah, I've seen the new Guardians, and I kind of want to go to our theater stuck in the 80s and go see Guardians this weekend. I've tried not to read anything about it.
Good flick.
Yeah, you enjoyed it?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
I heard like it might be harder for a kid to watch, though. Was it family or is it pretty heavy?
again, I mean, I guess it's tough for me to say because I'm. I mean, I had such an interesting. My childhood was so different from today, and then again, like, um, I mean, I let River see some stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't showing River Nightmare on Elm Street when he was 7. That's for sure. But he saw monsters.
I can't believe that,
Yeah.
dude, because I saw Poltergeist like on TV at a very young age, and it scarred me for bedtime. Like I remember because we had a plush, like a stuffed clown, like not like that one, but one not too far off, and I had to like bury it in the closet if I was going to get any sleep. So I can't imagine seeing Nightmare on Elm Street in the theater at 7.
It's interesting because I came out of it more sort of talking about making movies. You know what I mean? That's where it really all started. Like I just asked, my mom a lot about like making movies. It's interesting. I've talked about this before. Is like, why didn't any of the Muppet movies or Star Wars? I was such a Star Wars kid. Like, why didn't those movies sort of spark that that want to make a movie? But for some reason, Nightmare on Elm Street did, because I don't make scary movies. I make ridiculous comedies that happen to have horror themes to them. But like I couldn't make a scary movie. I couldn't even make. I couldn't if I tried to make a scary
just your sensibility and how you write always has to have that comedic flair.
Yeah, and and again, because of my mom and uncles, because while I was being shown horror, I was also being shown Monty Python and all these ridiculous like Airplane and stuff like that, and that's the stuff that I gravitated towards. And so to this day, I'm not sure. I've never been able to sort of pinpoint why Nightmare on Elm Street made me say, I want to pick up a camera and I want to try to do this, Mom. So
it's the reason like a lot of horror and does that to people at a young age is the way that the effects and what's involved with like a horror film and the feelings of it kind of is separated from reality versus even a Star Wars where it's like, I don't think Star Wars really takes me that far away from like, oh, I'm watching humans on a screen, other than like you see random aliens. But like horror and the feeling that you get from like seeing a guy made up like Freddy Krueger, and like the amount of blood that can be involved in some of it and the different elements that go into like the effects part of it, I think is what makes the movie making part of it stand out for so many people. Is
I mean, it definitely had me. I like I said, I would look at anything that had to do with like making horror movies or anything like that. That really did push the horror love. Seeing that and getting that video camera that Christmas,
I think there's obvious reason why like monster makeup magazines and stuff have been so big since going back to like the 50s 60s, like with the early monsters. And I think it's just something that even like young minds really connect with, that creativity level. So I, like you said, your parents and your other family members made it a point to say, oh, they made this is someone like doing this and this to make it look like that. I make a point to point that out to my son as well. So now he'll do it on his own. He's like, oh, that's, makeup right there, right? Like that's just a guy in makeup. So
yeah, that's what I did to River too. And it was great because like he grew up in an environment where we're always making movies, and they were always like, he considers the people, I call them extended family, but all the people who are in my movies are basically my extended family. They've been in my life for so long. They were around River. River saw them. So River always saw makeup and special effects and stuff like that. And so we were always really good about like letting him know that, hey, this is make believe, and this is how they do it in the movies. And he never really he didn't get scared. He was always scared of like weird things. He never got scared of this stuff because he sort of knew, and I could like pull out books and just be like, "See, this is makeup. They're just doing this to their face and stuff like that," and
Yeah.
which was cool. And I was lucky to have that, you know. But again, like I said, I was still scared. It just never stopped me from wanting more, you know.
Like I mentioned, Poltergeist, like the ghost story stuff is what really messed with me more so at a young age than like the slasher movies and stuff. Yeah, even though like I was definitely scared of Freddy just because of what Freddy is and those early tones before it really was slapsticky.
Yeah, yeah.
Like was very like, wow, this guy's nobody you want to run into.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, the ghost movies like Poltergeist and stuff, that even like Twilight Zone episodes and things like that really were things that I think scared me at an early age more so than makeup based like effects like horror and slasher, which is I want my son to also be like comfortable with it, like have the Fangorias around, have him be able to look at those, which is something that your son and you being who you are has been exposed to, you know, all those magazines and
yeah.
So
And you know, for him, he like horror isn't even he just doesn't give a shit. Like, it doesn't. It's not something that he like pursues. It wasn't something that like, you know, he has his like his favorite horror movies that he's seen, but it's not a genre that he really like stuck to. He is far more, I would say, comedy and action are sort of his big thing. Like he loves stupid comedies, but he loves action. He loves the Transformers movies. Like he loves the John Wick films, you know. Any of that stuff, like he just is like, oh, this is fucking awesome, you know, this shit. Horror, he's just like, meh. He doesn't care, you know.
You're like, no.
It doesn't really bother me, you know. I like that he likes some of the horror that he does, but like, I get it. It's not for everybody, and you know, he could have gone any way he wanted to, and
he's also at an age too. Like I remember being at that age where it was like, yeah, comedy and action, man. That's what we're going. That's what I want to see. Whereas, like in a few years, he might really like absorb more horror and connect with it. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's fine. He likes what he likes, and it's cool. And
my time at that age was probably like, yeah, like Adam Sandler was hitting it, and all those wacky comedies that are just dumb, numbskull things. Like, you know, I was all on board with those as well at 16.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, this is great. We should do a live sometime. That would be fun. Be able to like talk to some other people that watch your channel. You do those, and they're fun to watch too. It'd be fun to have like a conversation on a live, or even do it on Instagram.
Definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, summer movies.
Hey, we did it. It was a good talk.
Yeah,
it was fun. It was fun. We could have talked even more, but we're good. We did 2.5 hours here.
Yeah.
You know, we'll and yeah, that was good, man. Thank you for throwing out the idea. And
you have to do any type of like outro here that will make it easier to edit into it.
It's just gonna be, hey, you know, we like thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for enjoying this. Let us know your summer movie memories in the comments, your summer memories at all. Please talk it up. Give us your nostalgia as well, because I love to read that stuff. And you know, I appreciate all the people who still come by and check this channel out. Because as I've said, it's few and far between, and this isn't a monetized thing. It's when I have the time, when I feel like it, whatever brings me joy, I'll pop in front of the camera, and here we go. And I've been trying to do another episode with you for a while, Josh. So it's awesome that you had the time. You can pimp your site, pimp Instagram. Oh, I had that. This guy is a nostalgia warrior, thick and thin, and you definitely will get the feels when you look through his posts and on his on his Instagram. It's a deep dive into your childhoods, folks. And I say embrace that time of your life. And fortunately for us, we grew up in a the best time of all, and it sucks for all of you who didn't, but you can sort of live it through people like us.
There you go.
And,
yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me again. Anytime. I love talking to you. We chit chat on the side on Instagram, and I always enjoy it. I have been making my way through your whole YouTube going back several years, and I'm pretty close to being all caught up at this point.
good.
But yeah, we should definitely check me out on Instagram. I also have a YouTube page at Oh I Had That as well. I'm always trying my hardest to get more content up. Hopefully I just gotta find the guts or the grit to just sit down like you do sometimes and be like, hey, I'm gonna show you some of my random things I've collected or these movies. You do a great job with that on your channel, so I've been a fan ever since I found it. So thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Well, guys, go look him up. Thanks for watching the show. If you liked what you saw, give it a subscribe. Go on over to Oh I Had That. Subscribe. Come on. It's nostalgia. You love it. We love it. Bring yourself back to the 80s. All right, folks. We'll see you on another explosively erotic episode of A Crep from the 80s. And y'all have a good night. All right. Bye.